hyped horror book review. I have listened to Incidents Around the House, the book that many people have been calling the scariest book that was released in 2024. Let me tell you what I think. Well, hello, I'm Sinead. Welcome to my spooky channel, where today I am going to be doing a deep dive into one of the most hyped horror books of the last year. It is Incidents Around the House. Do I think it's worth the hype? Do I think you should read it? I'm going to share my thoughts with you with an optional spoiler-full ending. If you're new here, I predominantly do spooky book reviews. We are talking gothics, horrors, things with atmosphere, things that will make you run around a castle in a floaty dress. I don't care whether or not you wear dresses in your day-to-day life, the dress is mandatory. If you want to keep getting spooky content, hit subscribe, hit like. This is my first deep dive video, and I will be giving you an overview of this book without spoilers in it. At the end of this video, there will be a spoiler-full section. Please listen to the first half so you get your context. If you haven't read the book and you want to look at it later, you might want to save this video and come back to it to share your various thoughts. Let's get to it. This book is a haunting told from the perspective of an 8-year-old girl. Our narrator in this book is Bella, a child who lives at home with Mummy and Daddo, as she calls him, and also other Mummy, who lives in her closet. From the opening pages of this book, we come to understand that Bella has been haunted for some time by an entity that lives in her closet that calls itself Other Mummy. At first, this thing appeared as a friend to her when she was younger, but lately it has had a persistent question. Every night it asks, "Can I go into your heart?" Bella has always said no, but the frequency of these requests is starting to disturb her, and also the frequency of Other Mummy's appearances, and the fact that she seems to now be able to move around the house and even outside of it. In the background, we have the story of Bella's parents, a seemingly happy couple but with secrets and problems of their own. From Bella's perspective, they're not as happy as they used to be, but as Bella becomes more and more disturbed by Other Mummy's appearances, her parents are drawn into this haunting, and they too start to notice incidents around the house. The family struggles to deal with whatever is tormenting their daughter and to put their own demons to rest. We're left wondering if the family will ever get rid of this thing that is in their house and at what cost, or whether Bella will privately decide to say yes. A compelling synopsis that has driven a lot of people to pick up this book. I listened to it on audio, and I will say this is a great horror audiobook. It was very well narrated. You have the narrator affecting an 8-year-old girl's voice, and that just adds a layer of creepy to it, no matter what. Kids are creepy. Kids, can we just all agree that? I mean, I don't have kids, except for the one that haunts my house. Did I enjoy this book? Predominantly, yes. I do think that this is a good, effective horror book to dive into, whether you read it or whether you listen to the audio of it. It is a 4-star for me overall. I do have notes and thoughts on it. It's not the scariest book that I've ever read, but I did get some decent jump scares, and I was compelled to keep listening to Bella's story. The things that worked about this book: having a child narrate a horror story is a very effective tool. Bella is innocent, and she is looking at the world through an innocent child's lens. She doesn't really understand what's going on, and her feelings are emerging, and she's beginning to understand the different ways of the world, but still with a childlike naivety. She understands the seriousness of Other Mummy's presence, but she is also troubled by it. She occasionally has difficulty articulating her feelings. There is a lot of I don't knows through this story when people ask Bella questions, and I think some people found that annoying in some other reviews that I quickly glanced at. I didn't mind that. I think a child would be going, I don't know what's happening, and it kind of worked for me. The pacing of this book is really strong. There is plenty of action in this book without gore that will keep you engaged. They are moving constantly. There is a real sense of tension because this monster, this entity, this thing that is Other Mummy does not let up. And that is another strong point of this book. It is constantly searching for Bella, and then we come to understand that it is not confined to her room or to her closet. We very quickly, in the early stages, understand this thing can start to move now. And it can be anywhere, and it could be anything. Okay, well, where will it be next? And who can Bella trust? And who is who in this story? If I get a couple of oh my god moments when reading a book or listening to it, I'm happy. And I did get that with Incidents Around the House. There is an early scene with Bella's mother talking to her while she's sleeping. There is a later scene in the bathroom. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Oh dear God. I will say, don't go into this book expecting a great deep character study. While we have a lot of dialogue and a lot of conversations taking place through it between Mummy and Dad and Bella and everyone confronting their feelings and their own secrets from their past, I do feel that the characters in this, they are quite one-dimensional. It's a very simple story, which works really if you're going to have an 8-year-old relaying it. It should be simple. Any more complicated than that, I don't know how they would have done it. Everything that is happening would be devastating to an 8-year-old. An adult would probably have a bit more nuance around it. And I do think there was an oversimplification of the characters in it. We've got the mother and the father character. Yes, they have their turmoils. Yes, they have their struggles. It's pretty simple, and it's a tried and tested trope. It's been done a few times. I didn't feel like I'd really learned a lot about them, and I think we could have delved a bit deeper into their past, into their stories, rather than having quite stereotypical characterizations in this. This is also a book where everyone is questioning everything all the time. And I think you would if you were being haunted. It does mean there are big chunks of dialogue where Bella is wrestling with her thoughts inside her head, and the mother and the father are also speaking their thoughts out loud. Those can drag a little bit. You don't need that much exposition, I feel. But the book is saved by the ever presence of other mommy about what it wants, what it is, and what's going to happen. And that element of the story hooked me enough that I just wanted to keep listening. There's a lot of references to size and scale through the book as well, about where you feel safe, big spaces, open wide spaces, small spaces, and the spaces inside us as well, which was interesting. The majority of my notes would contain spoilers, so you can skip to the end for that. Overall, Incidents Around the House works as a solid page-turning horror. It is simple in its execution, but that's probably one of the reasons it works. It is not the greatest character study in the world. It is not the scariest book that I have read, but it certainly gave me some jumps, and it made me want to talk about it with friends. It is the sort of book that you will scuttle off to Reddit after reading to see what people thought about that ending. As promised, I'm now going to give you an optional extra section which contains spoilers. This section is for anyone who has read the book and wants to have a deeper dive into it, or wants to know my thoughts about certain elements of the book that I couldn't mention without giving away the plot. It could also be for anyone who has not read the book and who was never going to read the book but just wants to know what happens. I am not going to give a detailed breakdown of everything else that happens, but there will be enough in here to give you a hint of how this ends. If you don't want spoilers, save this video and come back later on. If you do want to share any thoughts about any of the spoilers I'm about to mention, be kind in the comments, put spoiler at the top, leave a little space, and then weigh in with your thoughts. I'd love to hear them, but we don't want to spoil it for others who don't want that. Are they gone? Okay. Other Mommy. Let's talk a bit more about Other Mommy. What I think worked about the monster is the scale of it and the size of it and the fact that everyone sees it. And it's huge and it's terrifying and the face moves and there's hair all over the arms and it is giant. This is a monster that does not fuck about. I love anything that plays with the idea of, is this all in your head? No, this is absolutely real. This is absolutely real. And that becomes very clear midway through the book and you're like, okay. The big thing in this book, Other Mommy follows them everywhere. She's everywhere. She can turn up in any house, take the guise of any person, and continually targets Bella and is trying to get her. People see her on that road. The bathroom scene in the grandmother's friend's house, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That bit where Bella sits on the toilet and says, oh, Dada would say well done, and my friend would say well done, and my mother would say I'm sitting on someone's lap. Great line. I did struggle with the characterization of the parents, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. So we come to understand that the mother, the real mother in the book, is cheating on the husband. She has been having affairs for a long time. She's dissatisfied with her marriage, even though she's really happy with her family. That eternal struggle of wanting everything. The father, Dado, in this is positively saintly in comparison. He is so committed to Bella. He is so loving and optimistic and just the cheerleader of everything. He is too perfect, in my opinion. So we have the one parent who is struggling with the pressures of parenthood and is making bad decisions and really must apologize for it. And then we have the other one who's saintly. Now, traditionally, that role is reversed. It's usually the father who is, oh yeah, men, they go out and cheat and they drink and they mess up their families. And mother is God. And mother is saintly and can do no wrong, and all she ever does is care about her family. It's interesting that they've switched the roles. I've seen this in a couple of books recently. Weirdly, it keeps happening. I don't know whether it's people trying to go, hey, I'm going to be different. The mother's the villain in this one. The fact that they flipped the roles, I still don't love that trope. I don't think parenting and I don't think people are that simplistic. I don't think you need to have one good parent and one bad parent. And I do think that comes across in the book. There was no delving into the mother's past, there's no delving into her story. And I say that not to say, oh, well, I'm sure there were reasons for her cheating on her husband, or like, let's not make her out to be the villain. She can still be the villain, but I would just like to have known where this came from. I often think that when we've got morally grey characters who the mother apparently is, there is a reluctance to give any explanation as to their actions. Explanations do not equal excusing them. So what we ended up having is just a little bit of an oversimplification of their marriage and of their feelings and their emotions. As they're trying to outrun other mommy, one of the psychics who they met earlier in the book turns up and says the only way to beat it is to make Bella less appealing, so she has to lose her innocence. Now my brain went, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? And as a seasoned horror film watcher and reader, I was worried. I was worried for Bella at that point. What it ends up being is that they go, we need to tell her the truth. Something that will take away her innocence. And then you're like, oh, there's a big family secret. What's it going to be? That family secret ends up that Bella is not Dado's daughter. The mother had been married before as a serial cheater, as established earlier in the book. She had had multiple affairs. She met Dado. He was an affair she was having. She fell pregnant. She thought it was his. It was actually her ex-husband's. She ended up leaving him. Dado agreed to raise Bella as his daughter. There we go. And we have this very tearful confession from the mother about Bella not being Dado's daughter. That really, for me, was a bit of a disappointment and felt overly melodramatic. And I appreciate that it may be me with my warped little horror head on, waiting to hear what the revelation was. And I had come up with so many things in my head. I had come up with, oh my God, she's not their daughter. They've stolen her. She's not actually a child. She's a little woman in disguise and they've hidden it from her for ages. They're going to get her to kill something. And I'm like, whoa, I am dark. I think the revelation that she's not Dado's daughter, for a reader, I was a bit like, oh, okay. But in hindsight, giving a huge twist would have been great for the reader, which is really why you're doing this. But for the story, it absolutely worked to deliver that news to an 8-year-old child. You know, to a child to suddenly realize that your world is not what you thought it was, that everything that you thought was true has been a lie because your parents have been lying to you, your father is not your father, your protector, who is he, who am I? It would be enough. And I got that and I was like, okay, be a bit nicer here, be a bit kinder, don't go for the really dark twist. I think it's another symptom of the book that doesn't quite work. It's the melodrama, and weirdly I did feel like the woman, the mother, was really being punished in this. There was so much sort of self-reflection and guilt, and she had obviously not been present for her family, and there were things to talk about there and to discuss. It destroying your child's innocence, I don't know. I think a trick was missed, potentially explaining a little bit more of what Other Mummy was. There was no explanation, no hints of what kind of entity or monster or ghost or spirit or being this could have been. It was sort of like, you guys decide. And, you know, a little folklore for me would have been good in there, a sort of hint at what this could be and where it has come from and how it's manifested. Are we dealing with a tulpa? Are we dealing with a ghost? Are we dealing with some sort of other entity? Something. It's sort of left hanging. I did sort of end the book going, well, was this a manifestation of the bad thoughts that were in the house? I don't think that really worked if it was. Was it just a thing that was there? I was expecting someone to have done something in the past and that to have been haunting them. Maybe I missed it, but I would have appreciated a bit more there. The ending of the book, wow, okay, they went there. And I like it when a horror book goes there. I would have liked there to be a happy ending and a bit of, you know, a revelation and retaliation and the family fighting and coming together, but it was very bleak. In the end, the family go back to their home. Their grandmother is standing waiting for them. They're all tired. The parents fall asleep. The grandmother's telling Bella these sort of life lessons about the feelings that you hold inside you and hold inside your heart and how big they are and making room for them. It's much more eloquently done in the book. And then afterwards, Bella falls asleep and realizes Granny isn't Granny anymore. It's Other Mummy. And I think that it was Other Mummy as soon as they turned up at the house. That's my theory. Granny is not okay. And then the parents go to confront Other Mummy off screen, as it were, off page. And they fall down on the ground and they're not moving. And Bella goes up to her room in fear and says yes to Other Mummy. And she lets Other Mummy in her heart. And she goes to the void, to the bizarre space the other mummy was in, and we don't really know what it is. We don't really know where she is, what the future holds for her, what the future holds for Bella. There's all sorts of theories on various groups about what the ending meant. I'm not entirely sure. I enjoyed the ending. I think it was nicely ambiguous. I don't need everything spelt out. For me, personally, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that it was the idea Bella was forever changed and she would be haunted by something otherworldly. Were the parents dead? I mean, I think it was heavily implied that everyone in that house had died apart from Bella. Maybe they've been knocked out. I don't know. I think it would have been more fun if they were knocked out and then she has to sort of walk around as Bella, convincing people. But if not, new Bella has some explaining to do. It's like, she's going to be arrested. She's going to go to jail. And what is the void? The void is something else. What is the afterlife? What happens on the other side? Did Bella die? Was this a ghost? Is this the afterlife? What is on the other side? Is it just an endless void of possibility that you can't explain? As I said, I thought the ending was ambiguous and it was fine for the book. It was very sad and it was a shame that they didn't win at the end of it, but I was happier with the bleaker ending given that there had been a little bit too much melodrama earlier in the book. So this is the reason the book is a 4-star for me, because as a simple, effective horror book that'll keep you turning the pages because of the central plot of the monster, I think it worked. I don't think the characterization was great all the way through it. It was a little bit cliched and it makes it hard for you to like the characters, but there's enough action that's pulling you along that you don't have to linger with them too much. You don't have to dwell too much on whether the mummy character, the real mummy character, is very annoying and very shouty and angry all the time. I really want to know why she was angry all the time, because we didn't really get a good explanation of that. Let's just take it she's scared for a child. It is a book, as I said, that you will go to the subreddit groups and you will want to know theories, and I think you'll want to talk about it with your friends. I'm sure some people will comment or message me saying, no, I didn't like it, or I thought it was this, and for that reason the book works, because it's a good talking point. There are scarier books out there for sure, but this one, as a good entry point, and if you don't mind a bit of a bleak ending, yeah, it'll work for you. Okay, we're free of the spoilers now. What did you think of Incidents Around the House? If you enjoyed this review, subscribe, like, save this video, leave a comment if there are any other books that I may have mentioned on TikTok or on other channels before that you would like a deep dive into, or books that I need to read next. And if this wasn't a scary book for you, what one would you recommend? Stay spooky.